Okay, guys, veins concept map. Thing you need to remember about veins is everything is going back from the most distal part of the body back to the heart. So we're going to start going to the superior vena cava. All right, starting from your fingertips, you have your radial and your ulnar. They empty into your brachial vein, which enters into your axillary vein. Then you have your cephalic vein. Your cephalic vein drains the lateral aspect of your arm and empties into your axillary. So we're going to add cephalic right here, going into the axillary. Then you've got the basilic vein, and that gets the medial aspect of the arm, and that goes into the brachial, and that goes there. Now, the two of these join to form the median cubital vein, which we said is where you would draw blood. Okay, so now that we've gotten that, your axillary vein is going to empty into your subclavian. But the subclavian is not the only place. The subclavian gets blood from more than the axillary. Let me rephrase that, I'm sorry. Your subclavian vein is going to get blood from the axillary vein, but it is also going to get blood from the external jugular. So we're going to put that there going into the subclavian. All right, so then your blood empties into the brachiocephalic. So from the subclavian, we go into the brachiocephalic. Now, in addition to blood from the subclavian, the brachiocephalic is also going to get blood from the vertebral vein. And it's going to get blood from the internal jugular. And then that's going to empty into the superior vena cava. Now, this is from the right side and the left side. The path of blood from each side is going to form into the brachiocephalic. So, right and left brachiocephalic empty into the superior vena cava. All right, so now let's take a look at coming from to the inferior vena cava. So to the IVC. All right, from the inferior vena cava, we're going to be going from the bottom, so we're going to go starting out from the anterior and posterior tibial veins and the fibular veins all go in. So you've got anterior and posterior tibial and fibular veins all go through the popliteal vein, which goes to the femoral, which goes to the external iliac. Now, also coming to the external iliac, you're going to get blood from the great saphenous, longest vein in the body. All of that is going into the external iliac. Now, going from the external iliac, you get going to the common iliac. So not only are you getting blood from the external iliac, you're also going to get blood from the internal iliac, going into the common iliac. All right, At this point, guys, the iliac empties into the what we call the inferior vena cava. So remember we used the analogy of the abdominal artery being like I-40? Well, the inferior vena cava is the same thing going up. Once the common iliacs join together, and that's right and left, to go into the inferior vena cava, then you have a lot of veins that are dumping back into the inferior vena cava. So I'm going to just start this here. And at this point, what empties into the inferior vena cava. And I guess the best way to do this would be, let's go back and erase this and add it this way. Inferior vena cava. All right, so what empties into the inferior vena cava coming back? First, you have the right gonadal. Empties directly into the inferior vena cava. Then you have the right renal. And you have the left renal. Now, the only reason, guys, that I am separating those two out is that the left gonadal empties into the left renal, before it empties into the inferior vena cava. So the right gonadal goes directly in there, but the left gonadal bypasses through the left renal. After you get through your renals, you have the hepatic portal vein. So at this point, we have a break. And so I'm going to write right here the word liver. I'm going to put it in a box, okay? Because what empties into the liver is the hepatic portal vein. And that drains the stomach and intestines. Now remember, why are we going through the hepatic portal? Because you need to have your blood filtered, okay? Intestines. This is just not doing right for me today, is it, guys? Intestines. Okay, that's going into the hepatic portal. Now, coming out of the liver, going into the inferior vena cava, are going to be your right and left hepatic veins. And that empties into the inferior vena cava, which eventually goes into the right atrium. And I guess to be consistent, I should put superior vena cava empties into the right atrium. All right, so let's bring this back so you can see this. So you've got two things that empty into the right atrium, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. We'll go over this in class on either Monday or Tuesday.